r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. Campers at Reddit, what's the most disturbing thing you have seen while camping? A couple came to the spot next to ours after we had been camping for a few days. They were there for about 2 hours after unpacking and setting up camp, just practicing knife throwing and cracking a whip. One of them cut their finger off and the other came and asked if we could watch their campsite until they got back. We did. We also played Indiana Jones for about 3 hours drunk off our ass trying to swing from a broken branch of a tree with that whip. They never came back and we let the park ranger know to look after their stuff. Went to an empty campground in the mountains in California. The weather was bad, January of 16 or 17. We were set up near a small river cooking a late dinner in the dark after night fell. My old dog, a husky, starts absolutely losing his mind. He was screaming and barking at a place beyond our lantern light away towards the river. I flipped on my headlamp, and it was a mountain lion. It stared back at me for a second or two, then turned and I lost it in the brush. Those eyes staring back at me. Bring your dog camping with you. While hiking in Sweden, I slept in a 3-sided shelter, when suddenly at 11 PM some people came up to me asking me what I was doing etc. Neighborhood watch, and telling me that there are strange people around. An hour or two after, I heard some more footsteps and an old man came close to the shelter, with no pants. Naked. Dong dingling. Moon was bright. When he saw me sleeping there, he went away after a while. Went camping on the Mendocino coast of California in 80s 90s. The first night at the campground we hear what sounds like a woman screaming like she's being murdered. It terrified us all awake. After a sleepless night we learned that there was a peacock sanctuary nearby, and that's how they sound. Forever ago my friend and I were camping in a horse pasture, with the owner's permission, with my friend's horse. It damn near crushed me when it decided that he wanted to be in the tent too and see what we were doing. NSFW, Lamar Valley, Yellowstone National Park, 2006. A man and woman pulled into the turnoff I was parked at and proceeded to walk about 50 feet down the hill and set up a nice little picnic spread. After setting up their blanket, I expected for them to unload their food. Nope. In the basket was about 25 various sized stuffed animals. Beanie Babies, large stuffed plushies, etc. They then proceeded to have a play date with them. I couldn't hear exactly what was being said, but it obviously sexual in nature. I watched them for several minutes before leaving and spent the remainder of the day fishing around the park. Around dusk, I returned to my campsite to find them 2 sites down from me. Of course, all the plushies were set up at the picnic table in front of the fire. NSFW part. Once fully dark, they retreated to their tent and proceeded to engage in sexual acts with the plushies. I will not repeat everything that I overheard, but I can assure you that these stuffed animals were inside of one of them. Push it out like it's your little fuzzy baby bitch, will remain with me for the rest of my life. Their silhouettes in the tent will never leave my mind. Anyway, I left and drove to another campground halfway across the park. I was like 8-9 years old when I saw my grandpa standing bare naked by the river in the middle of the night when I had to go to pee, something that scared the crap out of me as I didn't see that it was him at first. He was apparently just taking a quick bath, something he usually does at nighttime when he's out camping, but the sight of him standing there still haunts me a little to this day. For some reason some people don't actually sit on the toilet seat in the campground vault toilets. Nothing is scarier than waking up at 3 AM half drunk half hungover when you are camping, and walking to the bathroom to find someone hover shit all over the toilet seat and didn't even attempt to clean it up. My friends and I went camping a few years ago, just a campsite in Wales, but I remember waking up at 3 AM needing the toilet, and stumbled past an extremely obese couple having very loud and aggressive sex in the shower's toilet area. Was half pissed but they didn't even stop when I walked in. They did have the decency to almost slow down to a snail pace, as I awkwardly peed and made sure to head out as quickly as possible and not make eye contact. Gotta rewind like 25 years. The Blair Witch Project had recently come out. This is pre-internet for all intents and purposes, and the rumors were that it was real found footage. Silly to say today, I know. We woke up in the morning to find stones piled in front of our tent like in the movie. I'm sure it was just some kids from a neighboring camp, but it still freaked us out. Not long ago, me and my friend went camping together. It was a public trail, so other campers were expected. Though I didn't expect to wake up at 4 AM to a balding middle-aged man squatting behind a tree about 3 or 4 meters from our tent with a trowel in hand. We locked eyes and he just said, "I'd give it 5 minutes." As I was unpacking for a solo camping quail hunt, 2 guys walked into my camp to chat. Dirty and very disheveled, obviously drunk. They asked me if you got bullets for that gun when they saw my shotgun case. After a few minutes they turned to walk back to their camp. I saw that one of them had his scalp peeled back, leaving an open and crusty wound the size of the palm of my hand. That night they drank and threw 22 rounds into the fire and ran. Eventually they passed out. The next day they were arrested and I was told that the one with the scalp wound tried to attack someone with a roofing axe a couple of days earlier and got a reverse card played, and they were up there hiding out. Went to the forest with some friends one winter. We were completely unprepared and ended up sleeping bunched in a tiny tent in the snow. I woke up in the middle of the night hearing these grunting noises next to my head. I thought it was my friend snoring, but then realized there was this giant snout poking the fabric of the tent on the outside, and literally breathing in my face. I barely held myself from screaming when the bear got bored of trying to get inside and left. We went outside in the morning and there were massive paw prints everywhere, plus the leftovers of our food were gone. Lesson learned the hard way. A buddy of mine and I were paddling the Buffalo River in Arkansas. For reasons neither interesting nor relevant, we had to pull off and camp for the night next to a field in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of the night, we were awakened by ATVs not too far away. They got closer and closer until they were at our campsite. They started doing laps around our tent and yelling all kinds of things. It was exactly how you would imagine it would go in a movie right before the psycho rednecks do terrible things to the protagonists. Also, I'm from a redneck place where this was a completely plausible scenario, ending with me and my buddy bleeding at least a little. So we just laid there and hoped for the best, and fortunately they quickly got bored and left. A friend of mine wild camped and found a nice spot. When the sun came up, she found out that she was in someone's backyard, and the family was sitting there eating breakfast and watching as she quietly packed up and left. Not my story, but my childhood friend wandered off with a buddy on a scout trip and found a corpse in the woods. Had a .22 caliber hole between its eyes. The two of them were 13ish. He went to the trial and had been advised that he might have to testify since he discovered a murder victim. But they ended up not calling either of the kids. Mountain lion tracks over our tracks. That was pretty spooky. Same area, we camped next to this lake in July, and this rabbit came up and just hung out in our camp. We thought it was something terrifying sneaking up, bear or aforementioned mountain lion, until this cute little bunny just pops out of the underbrush. He hung out with at our camp for probably 3 hours or so before we went to bed finally. The spooky part of the bunny was, what the fudge is out there that this wild rabbit would rather stay super close to the humans. Kept my Glock on me for piss breaks. That bunny had absolutely been fed by humans before. I went on a family camping trip in Austria as a kid. The campsite was in a forest, and my dad picked a nice spot between some trees. Unfortunately our tent wouldn't fit, so we had to move along a bit. That night there was a massive storm, and I remember my parents tying the tent to the car and spending most of the night holding the tent down. In the morning we woke up and it was a bright sunny day. We opened the tent to find a 2-foot thick tree laying across the spot we originally picked. If our tent had fitted in that spot we would have probably been killed. My mum cut the trip short at that point. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.